All right, so we're going to talk now about Kamala Harris and the fact that there was, I think it was a journalist or an artist who put her image next to Ruby Bridges from the immigration era. And there was some talk around that recently where people were saying, you know, like that image offended them. There was also some people saying, including Ruby Bridges, who were okay with the image and supported it. But there were some people saying Kamala Harris did not deserve to be in that image with her. So we wanted to talk about it because it came up in our group chat. And I know we had some differing points of views on colorism in America, right? So you guys want to start talking about that a little bit? Who wants to start, I guess? Okay. Oh, LaShawn.
Or I don't know. There's a lot of mixed people. So if she's not Black, then none of us are Black. So it's just, to me, it's just ridiculous how we keep trying to divide people up into different. I mean, what the heck is she then? Like, she's only Indian, or she's only this, or she's only that, or do now mixed people have their own group? Like, I don't know. It's just getting ridiculous that we keep pushing people out of different categories. And then, I don't know, I can't think right now. I'm sorry, I have to cough.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at your pain.
I think she wants to
let somebody else talk.
Yeah.
Okay, Peter. Peter.
Oh, I'm sorry. This goes back to what I always say. Stop putting yourself in a box, because all of a sudden you start putting yourself in different size boxes. So I haven't heard too, I think with her, some of the pushback I've heard back about her is her mother's Indian from India. Her father's Jamaican. Her family line was slave owners from Jamaica, so that she's not African-American in that aspect versus that she's not Black. I think that's the difference that I've heard. And again, I haven't heard a ton of it, so there might be something different, but I think that's what it kind of goes down. She's not, obviously you can look at her skin color, she's going to have those same obstacles or whatnot. But I heard a lot of the pushback I hear from her against her as far as that goes is she comes from slave owners. So her lineage isn't from slavery.
And that's what's so crazy is I feel like some of us might stem from slave owners. Like we have no idea what our background is because that was hidden from us or whatever. So really
too many mixtures up in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of
people oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say a lot of people have a problem saying like islanders or like people from South America or whatever are Black. Like they don't realize everywhere slavery went. Like there's so many people ignorant to the extent of slavery that it's amazing to me. Like they did the same thing with Bruno Mars. Like, oh, he's not Black. I mean, Puerto Ricans are Black. Like they're Black, they're Native, they're Spanish. They're all mixed up. Like we keep trying to take people out of it. It's like you don't. Just look at a map of where the Atlantic slave trade went, and you would see all of these people are Black and dark-skinned for a reason. They're all descendants of slaves in some way, shape, or form. You don't get Black just because, like.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of Puerto Ricans want to be called Black.
Well, I think that's
Black or not doesn't make them less Black.
No. I'm just saying
that's a whole different situation, though, sure. Because that's with if we're really talking about colorism, that's within any race, national, I don't know, I'm like,
I mean, even Asian
anyone, like if you're light-skinned Black girl, you're more pretty and this and the other for some reason. And it's the same thing with like any race you have, for some reason, it's instilled in their mind.
Some reason. There's a reason.
No, I know, but I'm saying it's like people stick with this notion of if your skin is darker, then you ain't shit. And it's just ridiculous. The whole concept is ridiculous because we all pretty much come from I'm sorry, we come from the same motherfucking thing. That's
yeah, but it's ridiculous to us. But for a lot of people, that's everyday life of just either I'm gonna pass, I could potentially pass, and the darker you are, the less valued you are in society. So I mean, there's valid, in South America, we've seen the documentaries come out lately around people bleaching their skin and stuff. It's sad. It's sad, but it's definitely an issue. It's not just a South American issue. It's not just a American issue. It's a global issue. It's really fucked up. Because if you're brown, you're brown. And like you said, Peter, you're going to have obstacles, regardless of if she came from Jamaican slave owners or American slave owners or whatever. You're brown skin. She's a female. She's been through a lot, most likely. And that's why I'm okay if she ends up being president one day, because a brown female in office can get a lot done.
I will say,
others. We just go through a lot naturally. She'll be all right. Off topic. Sorry, CJ. Go ahead.
no, you know what? In regards to that painting, comparing her to Ruby Bridges, I wouldn't have done it just because we're talking about a child integrating to school versus a grown woman, running for office for, her own gain, power. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just wouldn't have done it. That's my personal preference. But in terms of the colorism part, I think everybody's entitled to have their own own philosophy, own idea, as long as you're not, pushing people. Like, if somebody wants to identify or claim something, I don't really give a shit. I mean, there was some white people who want to identify as Black. I give two shits less, especially, some that have the dark shade or whatever. I don't care what, if that's what they want to see themselves as, I don't care. For me, though, when you say Black, I identify Black as Black people who have, a melanin in their skin and whose, culture only goes back to, American slavery history. Like, our roots our history is here in America. We lost a lot of stuff when our ancestors were brought here from Africa. So we only have this American experience as Black people. So we're Black. We are different. Our experience is different than a first generation person who has come here from a country in Africa. They're called African Americans too, but they have history, they have roots, they have ties to Africa. So their experience here versus ours is different, which is why, again, I wouldn't push them out of a box and say, my struggle is hard or whatever. It's just different. So I would classify myself and experience of people like mine who, again, our history is tied to here as Black people. I would classify those people who, again, can trace their roots back to Africa, first generation, as African Americans. Puerto Ricans, the same thing. Like, I wouldn't classify them as Black. I would say their struggle and their history is very similar to ours, but they have history, they have roots that can tie them to maybe Puerto Rico and maybe some Spanish culture. So it's just a different thing, but that's just me.
Wes?
But they're also from slaves. I'm sorry. I just don't get it.
I know, and it's a different thing though. Like, I'm from slave. I can't tie my history to Spanish, Spanish cultures or this or that. Like, so it's a different, it's different. Yes, it's slaves, but then there's another, it's just a different history. It's a different path.
Wes? And then
a friend of mine was telling me, because I've had this question for a really long time. I'm like, what the hell is Hispanic? What is that? And he went into this whole thing about how it's just made up by the government to go to differentiate. And I was like, really? But no, it's like to differentiate certain people. Like, and I always know it sounds like a Black ass conspiracy coming out. Like, I always have that.
No,
but you know what, man? You know what? I don't get to pick. Y'all, everybody, like, we have this great discussion about colorism and all this other stuff. I don't get to pick. So everybody else, like, I know how this goes. Black people from, way before civil rights, but even like specifically civil rights to now, have always been frontline for change in America. And you know who shit never changes for? Black people who are frontline for change in America. Everybody else gets benefits all the time. And the older I get, the more, and when I talk about conservative Black people and especially old Black men, the one thing I've learned is, and it's intimated a lot. Old Black people are really, really tired. of being frontline for change and never actually getting the change. You see other people get the change. You see other people get the benefits. You see other people get this, and then you be like, damn, we still didn't get the thing. And just with colorism in particular, the one thing that's always going to separate dark-skinned people is that you will never get the option to choose what you want to be. You'll never get to say, well, I identify more with Hispanic or Latino. And you could be Cuban and dark as hell and have that, and it's not going to matter. They try every day. It doesn't matter. You're black. If the police pull your ass over and you don't know why, and you're black, you're going to know why in a second. I think everybody else gets that benefit, and it's a really cool thing to be able to check a box. Have you ever tried to check another box with your black ass? Have you tried to do it? Ant, have you tried to check another box? CJ, Shaila, have you tried to check another box? That shit is not going. You're going, oh, hold on. You screwed up. You guys get to pick and identify and do that. And I just think it's a really unique thing for the people who constantly, for somehow there's all these black ass benefits that we get. And it's just like, it's not happening. So I think it's an interesting thing.
Hold on. So LaShawn and then Jess.
My friend, who's actually lighter than me, tried to check another box, and they were like, but what else are you? Like, they wouldn't let her just check like other or whatever she was trying to check at the time, because she's mixed also.
That's not right.
They were like, but you're also black, right? Like, they wanted her to check specific boxes for a very specific reason. So that's why I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't really care where in North America or South America you're from. If you have dark skin, at the end of the day, they're going to say you're black. So if you're Hispanic, if you're Puerto Rican, whatever the case may be, that's why I don't understand why we try to separate it. But as far as like colorism in general, like Jasmine said, it's like a global problem. Like even Korean people, Chinese people, all these different cultures, they want to be lighter. They put on all this makeup. You see these K-pop artists? This is ridiculous how much makeup they put on, and they make themselves look like a freaking powder. It's like insane. But yeah, whatever.
Don't talk about them. They will come and get you, and they will hack everything on.
That makeup is, I know. You know what? They are going to come after us. Let me leave K-pop alone.
You know who never changed?
Don't come after me. I'm sorry, K-pop. Whatever y'all.
You know who would never change their skin tone to be like others? Sammy Sosa.
Fucking idiot. Jasmine.
Yeah, and he was black, and
he looks like a hot mess.
That's the Dominican thing.
That's Dominican Republic, but that's a lot of South America.
Well, Michael Jackson did the same thing.
Jasmine, we're not talking about the king of pop who is deceased on this call.
Nothing.
Nothing for you? Okay. Cliff.
For this, I have a friend, cousin, whatever. So, black mom, Indian dad, Indian descent dad. He goes to, he's an engineer trying to join the African-American affiliation group at his job. He goes in and I want to join, This is only for black people, is what he's told. Now, his skin complexion is dark, but he favors more his mom's side. So he looks like he's, from India or whatever. So they questioned, his legitimacy to join to the point where he didn't want to join. So, it works both ways. I think black people can do the same thing that other groups can. So that's why I say, if you want to put yourself in whatever box, I go for it. I don't give a shit. That's how you identify. So that's, who is somebody to tell you how you identify? And
that's what I was saying, CJ, is that we as black people need to stop saying you're not black enough, you're not black enough, you're not black enough. I'm agreeing with you. We have to stop doing that.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't saying anybody here. I'm just saying, it's just, if you identify as something, go for it. Good for you.
You know who's not black enough? Sean King.
Again, and him,
those are
who cares? He says he's black. Hey, if he's good, okay, he's black. I don't give a shit.
He says he's black because the police beat his ass. That's why he said, and to me, I
That's a
didn't
black
question
experience.
anything. I
That's a
didn't
black
question what he
experience.
said. When he said it's because the police beat his ass, I was like, okay, he with us. I didn't even ask. I didn't follow up. I didn't do nothing else. I know people hate Sean King. I know he be stealing money. I know all of that. I just never followed up on the black thing because, of course, the police already decided for him. That's just how I think. That's how that to me, those are the rules.
It's an experience, and if you experience it, you can claim it.
And IMAX, nigga, they will come to you. Never mind.
And sorry.
All right, for sure. When I'm specifically speaking from a black experience at this moment. Like, so I just recently encountered a situation, and I told you about it. What I got called beige, and I realized at that, I knew it, but I realized at that moment how like there are people that really live by that, like that really embrace like you're beige, I'm darker than you. And at the end of the day, it'd be like, that's like, do you hit yourself? Like, it's just annoying. Like, it makes my ass itch that we still living by that. And it's annoying. Like, it's the dumbest thing ever now. It's just to the point, like, it's just stupid. And it's like people that really like live by that. Like, come on, man. Like, for real. Like, of all the things you could say to me, you gonna, like, for real? That's all. It's just stupid to me. It's very dumb. It's very immature.
To say you're blacker than me is stupid. LaShawn, or Peter and then LaShawn. Peter, did you have your hand up? Or are you good? Okay, LaShawn.
I don't know. I just think, I guess this conversation has been had like a gazillion times. Like, I remember months ago when something came out on, I don't even remember what station, but they were talking about the color thing. Peter, were you gonna say something? Something came out about, dark-skinned people and light-skinned people. And I had to have a real conversation with people at work who were like, yeah, because light-skinned people don't have no problems and y'all have it easy. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, I had to explain like different things that I went through just to like prove like anything. Or I'm like, even from black people, darker black people sometimes hate on you just for being light when you didn't even do anything. Like literally, oh, you have curly hair, and I had gum put in my hair at school before just because they were mad about my hair. Like, are you freaking serious? Like literally everyone experiences problems in different sides. Like it's just on opposite ends. And apparently everyone thinks the other person has it easier. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy. We need to just stop it all. Everybody, just stop. Just stop.
Can we all just get along?
Like, hold on.
Peter, Jasmine.
Like, I get pulled over by the police.
What Peter, Jasmine?
Person do. So it's just my fault.
And you're going in and out.
Wes, did you raise your hand? Okay. Peter, Jasmine.
I'm letting light-skinned people take over.
Goes back to my point.
He raised his hand, Shanta.
Stop putting yourself in a box. Stop seeing color, and everybody's fine.
Stop.
There's
seeing color.
Yeah, it's easy.
I didn't put gum in my own hair. Like somebody else put me in a box.
Yeah, but times have changed. You know how much racist stuff I've been through. I never talk about it because it's irrelevant to me at this point.
But wait, can we hear about the racist stuff you've been through? I think that's important.
Really?
Yeah, if you stop the recording, I will tell you some of the stuff I've experienced.
I'm gonna pause this.
So there's a song, you guys should listen to. It's called "What Am I" by Chino XL. He talks specifically about this because he's half Puerto Rican, half black, and they talk a lot about that on how different people see you. If you're not black enough, you're not Hispanic enough, and they're like, he goes, "What am I?" He goes, "I'm a zebra, y'all," because of how different people are broken down. But I would be really curious when you guys talk about like the different generations and what they're going through. If as your kids get older, and if they're experience things differently than you guys are, and if there's a change. What happened?
There's a change in how we feel about color.
No, on the level. So back before, if you think about before, racism 20 years ago, it was blatant. There was no, now I think it still happens, but now it's all microaggressions because there's not that blanket racism that's going on like it was before. You would just walk in and all of a sudden you were typecast in one way or the other. There was no way around it. 80s, 90s, it started changing. Go ahead.
You're attributing to racist like behaviors on individuals, but racism still exists on a systemic level. So as far as what our kids are experiencing, just in being in a public school in the city of Chicago, you're having a disadvantage to something. So just being like, there's other forms of racism.
No, that.
So Pete, Jasmine, and then CJ, and then Wes wanted to say something. I think Wes.
I was kind of just gonna hit on, I guess, what LaShawn some of you guys have been talking about the whole like I mean, I can't even get my thought process together right now. Kind of like identifying like who you like. I don't know who brought up the whole Bruno Mars situation, and then Peter kind of goes into his whole always checking yourself in the box, don't do it bullshit that he goes into, and it's kind of just like. Oh yeah, LaShawn's point about you not being able to really like, I guess, choose. Some people choose for you. And like how the other side also has like difficulties, just as like anybody else does. I always say that to people whenever I have conversations, because it's just like, which I think we've talked about it before, maybe on one of the videos about being like ambiguous to people, like they don't really know what you are. Like I know for me that's pretty much been like one of like my biggest like, I guess, struggles like growing up, because we grew up in predominantly Hispanic and Black neighborhoods. And so it's just like moving around and then getting old and getting into like, you know, companies and getting into the business world or whatever. It's just like people kind of like look at you and they don't really know what to do with you or kind of how to like be around you or kind of like view you in a certain way. Or if you're acting too much this, why are you acting that way? Because you look like you're supposed to be acting like this, like, you know, so it's just that struggle of like, even when you like don't really know how to explain to people what you are, like, you know, and like having like roots, when CJ was talking about like people have in Puerto Rico like have roots, or people like who came over from, you know, but it's like, well, our roots are American roots, but like it would still be nice for us to know like where our roots do like come from, so then we as an individual can like help identify us as we're walking around in the world. I know it's kind of all over the place, but that's kind of just been on my mind. So just
23andMe. Go for it.
No, so the government can have my saliva. No, thank you.
Hey, I'm the same way. They ain't getting my dinner. Okay, not my dinner. All right, CJ.
I was just gonna say, going back to the color thing too, what Ann was touching on. I just have to say though, I think that everybody should, you know, you can't, everybody has, you know, especially people of color, they all have an experience, you know, so to, you know, not claim somebody's Black or not Black enough, that's just, you know, bullshit, ignorant. But I think we do have to, you know, acknowledge that for people of darker skin, historically, they've had a harder, rougher go at it. And you can look at, and he.
Oh no! I wonder if his computer died.
I didn't like what he was saying, so I kicked him.
Wait, so Peter, you did look like you wanted to respond when people were talking about being put in a box, blah blah blah. And I know we all know how you feel, and don't put yourself in a box. You won't be in a box.
How are people raising their hand to speak? Because I raised my hand 10 hours ago.
I was gonna.
God, Shaila,
I promised Shaila I had every intention to yield my time to you when I totally was gonna be like.
So Shaila, every time I see you move your arm, it looks like you're just going like this. So I think you're hitting a screen.
Yeah, Shaila, you gotta put your arm like above your head.
You're putting it out like you're hailing Hitler.
Yeah, see, we weren't seeing your arm. Your arms are not on the script. Huh? Yeah.
I'm raising my hand in the thing. Like you hit something.
I see it now. It says Shaila raised her hand.
How are people raising their hand to speak? Because I raised my hand 10 hours ago.
I was gonna.
Shaila,
I promised Shaila I had every intention to yield my time to you when I totally was gonna be like.
So Shaila, every time I see you move your arm, it looks like you're just going like this. So I think you're hitting a screen.
Yeah, Shaila, you gotta put your arm like above your head.
You're putting it out like you're hailing Hitler.
Yeah, see, we weren't seeing your arm.
Oh, y'all
Your
are
arms
seeing
are not on the
my
strip.
hand?
Huh? Yeah.
I'm raising my hand in the thing. Like you hit something.
Oh,
to
I see it now. It
Oh.
says Shaila raised her hand. Oh my gosh, Shaila. Zoom fail.
I quit. So when y'all was saying y'all raised y'all hand, I raised my hand. Like I'm thinking y'all raised y'all
That's why you
No, we're literally raising our hand. But Shaila, that's so funny because I was like, Shayla's really quiet on this topic. And I know she has
like,
something.
man, this is taking forever. I'm
Go,
trying to
Shay.
life, but I'm like, well, we done switch topics up.
You see how they do dark-skinned people?
I'm
That's
just gonna
see?
chill. It's cool. We
You're
good.
too racially ambiguous for us, though.
Whatever. My
CJ.
voice matters.
All right, okay.
Against you because you dark skinned, CJ. Well, you're not dark, but
And when you
will
doing that, I was like, maybe I didn't raise it, so I'm raising my hand again. I'm like on the screen, raising my hand. I quit.
no, we've been physically going like this.
Forget y'all. That's okay.
I was just gonna say though, to finish my little point, I was just gonna say like everybody's experience is different though, and I just would have to say like, you know, dark skinned people have a different experience. I mean, you know, their experience is different, of course, and historically, darker skin is, you know, one of the hard. You know, it's of course the darker the skin, the harder the experience. You know, the more hate and stuff, et cetera, historically.
I mean, I get that, but I just think we should stop dismissing everyone's.
No, right. Everybody's experience is different and everybody has it, right? So you can't, I think you just acknowledge everybody's experience. That's all it is. I mean, everybody has it, you know?
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Say, oh yeah, because you got it easy, you know.
I dismiss yours because mine is different. That's right. Ignorant, you know?
I think that's a great point. I think that happens way too much where people just assume whatever they went through, their life was tougher than somebody else. Assume that everybody has because everybody has different challenges. And to one person, your challenge might be tough and somebody else might think that's easy and vice versa. Everybody has challenges in life. They're just going to differ.
Oh, I have
how you handle it.
Well, hold on, y'all. We got to give Shaila her 4 minutes because
I thought that rant was her whole speech.
I don't even want it anymore.
Shaila, you got 4 minutes. We're going to give you
I don't want 4 minutes. This is a long time.
Just talk. You ain't got to talk for 4 minutes.
How was your day, Shaila?
It was, you know what? I had a good day. I was productive. Life was good. I raised my hand, didn't get acknowledged because I didn't raise my hand.
Is it because you're black?
Tomato. I just enjoy hearing you all talk until I forgot my thoughts and yeah.
It's. Did you feel invisible? Did you feel as though you weren't seen and that?
I did. And
is it because
sometimes when you don't,
you're from the islands,
you're not seen and you're not heard, you can listen. So I just took the time to listen to all of you and enjoy your viewpoints and hear your experiences and the different nuances and just take it all in.
One of the remarkable things about not being seen and heard is and taking that time to listen is you learn a lot about the people around you and you learn a lot about the country. You do.
You surely do.
So you'd be better apt to speak on America while America can't necessarily speak on you. It is.
That got deep, Wes.
I'm always there.
There's definitely also a huge difference between like the male versus female Black experience because I've never gotten pulled over until I tried to pick up Jermaine one day. That was the first time I was pulled over for no reason. I mean, I've been pulled over, but I've never gotten pulled over for no reason until I was messing with Jermaine one day. Like I was like, they really just pulled me over. I literally just picked him up from a corner. He hopped in the car and we got pulled over. And I was like, oh, this is the first time this has happened. I just got pulled over for no reason. And Jermaine's like, that's life. And I'm like, no, that's not life. Like, damn it.
Okay, so, Shaila, for real though, colorism, America, go.
It's different layers. Okay, we can like do my little quick fix. Little background. Mom's Black, dad's from Belize. So colorism hit two different ways. I was the lightest thing walking in my household and didn't know it for a couple years, which was very interesting. Because when you're a kid, whether you realize it or not, you identify yourself with who's in your household. So I didn't notice, like, even though I knew, I didn't know I was different than them. because you think you're the same as your family. You can see it, but it's taught to kids. It really is. The differences. So like certain things, like the way that you're treated and the things that you're taught that you have to do and communicate with other people, sometimes I got singled out because there were certain things that would be taken differently from me because of how I looked when I'm just saying the same thing my cousin said or a family member said. And I get where it comes from, but at the same time, it's different layers to it. So one thing I will say, a lot of racism and racist mentality is taught. All of it is taught. We're all, and a lot of it, at least in my experience, was taught to be a protective measure. Like you need to learn how to navigate through life to protect yourself or understand that people are not going to necessarily like you for the way you look, not because of what you did, not because of what you said, or because of how you look is going to be taken differently. And it's a history to things. And you just got to be conscious of that. And if you're not, just be open to hearing, like sometimes just hearing somebody's reasoning behind something, like when they're offended, even if you don't have to, like you don't even have to agree with it, but you should at least hear where it's coming from, because it might be an educational moment for you, or you might just know, hey, let me just move around from that person because they're just not gonna like me and keep it pushing. But yeah, it was just like, and then especially with people from Central America, colorism, oh my goodness, it's really, really amped up there. And you'll find that in a lot of different countries, where darker skinned people are treated worse than lighter skinned people. And it's just deep. It's very deep. And you're all in the same family. Same family, same bloodline. Some people just darker than others because we're mixed. So it's just a luck of the draw. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it. It's complicated.
All right. You're the LaShawn. It is complicated.
LaShawn, go first.
Okay.
LaShawn can go first.
I was just going to say, it is taught sometimes from your family, but like in my personal experience, I didn't really learn about race until after I had been called the N-word. And then it was kind of like, oh, we got to have this conversation. Because I was only like 5 maybe, and I was at a park, and I was
4.
I can't remember. I was 4 or 5, maybe even 6. I don't know, somewhere in that 3 years. And I just was like, I know that's a bad word, and I know she's not supposed to be calling me that. And it was actually a Hispanic person that called me that. But it was like, so at home with all the different skin tones, because we're mixed, like everybody looked different. So it didn't click in my head that it was a color was even a thing. So then when sometimes those conversations have to happen after the fact, and you're like, oh. And the first conversation I had to have about color was actually with my brothers. So that's not, my brothers told me that there was no Santa Claus. And my brothers told me being,
right here,
allowed my stupid brothers to tell me about the N-word, which they just, let's not get into that. But then also somebody allowed my stupid brothers to tell me there was no Santa Claus. So that was very traumatic. Not cool. But anyway.
It's traumatic having older brothers. Peter.
Yeah, so I think, although I would agree that racism is taught, I don't think it's really taught as much as it was before. I think now it's a resentment towards other races if they feel it's used as an excuse by people. They'll have a resentment towards another group because they think they're getting an advantage one way or the other, or they're using it as an excuse for their own failures. But I don't think it's taught like it was before. That's just so, like, if you're
always been
no, I think before it was just taught because it was just hatred. A lot of people didn't know why they hated other people; they just hated them. So I think it was just pure hatred. But I just think like now it's more resentment. If you feel like you're not, like if another group is getting an advantage in different areas, so.
No, I
Jasmine
personally
and
know
then
people
Wes.
that teach racist beliefs like out because they just think that's the way it's supposed to be or that's the way it is.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying is I don't think it's as prevalent being taught that way as it used to be. I think now when people become racist, it's more of resentment of another group, or they're using as an excuse for their own personal failures.
Jasmine and then Wes.
Well, kind of going back to that whole racism being taught thing, like kind of the same thing as LaShawn said. Like, I definitely didn't recognize our household was way different than the average Joe type of family until I got into school, and it was just like they couldn't put like two and two together. Like, you know, especially when we all went to Marquette, and it was kind of just like, wait, how are you guys related? Like that just doesn't even make sense. But I think kind of to Peter's point, when you're saying that like it's not people are more so doing it out of resentment, I kind of like my brain kind of translated that into that whole colorism situation where it's just like they're hating each other because of the treatment that they think that people are getting, like, you know, or like which I mean, not to again like disregard like that being darker skin, obviously your treatment is way different, but I think that that's where that like resentment comes in. Even being Hispanic or this or that, it's just like it's just always viewed as like, I think my definition of racism was just white people being racist against Black people, like, right? But it's like now that I'm getting older, it's kind of just like, well, no, you can you can be prejudiced within like your own circle, and that's how we come up with colorism, because it's just like our minds are always towards you. Not all of us, obviously, but you know, a lot of people believe that you want to look as white as possible so you can get the best treatment. That's what that means. And so I feel like until we change that narrative and make that narrative not a practical thing, I don't even know if that's the right word, like we're always going to have these issues of race with being a problem outside and within your own culture. So that's it.
How do you get rid of that narrative, Peter? Don't put yourself in a box. All right, sorry. What?
Done. End of story.
The other people put you in a box. What?
There were two things there, because I don't know why this jumped into my head when he was talking. Peter said he was talking about it's more of a resentment towards others. And I couldn't help but think of them damn Trump rallies where it was so obvious that Trump was playing to the resentment of the other, which was often Mexicans. And there's also going to be an argument. I've heard you make it before that was about MS-13, so it wasn't racist. It was about all this, but to not understand at the same time that so many supporters took that as deliberately resentment for their take. I mean, it turned into they're taking our jobs. It turned into also like there's a resentment there that, and I know, like I know you understand that, but it doesn't, for some reason politically, it doesn't translate. The other thing, it just was something I was thinking about, but also it's really important to note that racism is a power dynamic. So you have to have power in order to be racist, just like you have to have power in order to be sexist. I can't impose any sort of thing on you. If I'm a hiring manager and I'm paying everybody out and I'm saying what I'm going to do, I'm paying all the fellas in the room what they're supposed to get paid, and then I pay all the ladies 73 cents on the dollar. Like that's an actual power thing. And I'm not coming out and saying anything explicitly sexist, but the practice itself is an institutionalized form of sexism where I'm making sure that I maintain power over them. We never talk about that, but that's the actual practice of racism, sexism, and all things now. It's not necessarily calling people a name or beating them up or whatever.
Peter?
Yeah, just real quick, back to you're trying to tie this into like a Trump rally when you're trying to speak for Trump supporters and you're completely off base. He's talking about something specific. How you take it and how you interpret it, that's fine, but that's just not the reality. When you're talking about the jobs things, I don't know why you're in, but that's fine. We're talking about the jobs things. It was just a matter of his whole platform was always bring the jobs back to America. That's pretty simple. And as far as like the women 73 cents, that's a myth. That's actually not true. When you're talking about women, listen, stop. If you take a look at
Are you freaking serious?
are you going to stop? Stop. That was based off of the jobs that they take. If women are getting hired and they're asking for the same pay, they're receiving the same pay. What that's looking at is if more women are teachers, if more women are taking lower paying jobs, that's what brings down the value. Women do not get paid 73 cents on the dollar for the same jobs. That's just a flat out lie. And plus it's illegal. That's been illegal for years. So it's just not happening. I don't know why we